Hi, this is Mrs. Anderson, and these are your vocabulary words for your identity short stories. Please take notes on the parts of speech and the definitions in order to be prepared for your next vocabulary quiz. This video will be posted on YouTube so that you can stop it, rewind it, or replay it as many times as necessary. So the first 5 words all come from the short story Daughter of Invention by Julia Alvarez. The first word is disclaimer, and disclaimer is a noun, and it's a denial of responsibility or knowledge. A good example of a disclaimer is the statement that you see here. Oftentimes you'll see a disclaimer like this at the beginning of a book or in a movie in order for people to make others aware that they feel there's no responsibility that certain individuals could have been written about or could have been portrayed in a movie in a way that those individuals would find unpleasant or perhaps unflattering. The next word is inhospitable. Now notice that the suffix in is at the beginning of the word, and if you are a hospitable person, you are incredibly welcoming, and as soon as you put that suffix in front of, it becomes the opposite. So inhospitable is an adjective that means that you are not welcoming. I chose this image to go along with the word inhospitable because it's weather that would be incredibly inhospitable for people who were seafaring or on boats. No one would want to travel, noticing the rough seas, the lightning, the storm, and what even looks like a volcano brewing in the background. Quite inhospitable or not welcoming at all. The next word from Daughter of Invention is non-committal. Again, we have a suffix here that's going to help us out. That non means not. So if you are non-committal, you have no clear indication of attitude or feeling. Since someone who's committal would be making a commitment to something. If you're non-committal, you are doing the opposite. I liked this image because it uses the kind of language that a non-committal person would use. Notice that all of these words don't really take a clear opinion or make a commitment to doing something. The next word is insubordinate. Insubordinate is an adjective, and it means that you're being disobedient to a superior. In this case, the parent thought that the child was being insubordinate to her teachers. I like this photo. It's entitled Insubordination because the sleigh rider is trying to get the reindeer to listen to his commands, but of course the reindeer has different ideas and is not listening to his superior. The last word from Daughter of Invention is misnomer. And misnomer is a noun, and it's an accurate or incorrect name. This image reveals a common misnomer. We use the term jellyfish when in fact, jellyfish are not fish. It is a misnomer. So the next 5 words are from the medicine bag, and I wanted to make sure that I pronounced this particular word for you because a lot of times it's mispronounced. It's pronounced Sue, almost like it's the female name S-U-E. A Sioux is a noun, and it is a member of a Native American people originally from the north central United States. What I have for you here is an image of one of the most famous Sioux. This is Sitting Bull, and he's part of the Lakota Sioux tribe, and he's famous for having a premonition that the Sioux would have victory in a great battle. A few short months later, the Sioux defeated General Custer, and while he did not participate in the battle, he gained a lot of fame for predicting that victory. Unseemly is the next word, and it is an adjective. Notice that a lot of times it's adverbs that end in ly, but here we have a case of an adjective that ends in ly. Unseemly means inappropriate or unacceptable behavior. And sorry to be so graphic with this image, at least it is of a very small child who may not know that picking one's nose is unseemly, but hopefully as you grow older, you realize that this would not be considered appropriate behavior in public. So for our next word, sheepishly, notice that we have an adverb now, and this word does have the ending ly, as is typical of most adverbs. Sheepishly means in an embarrassed manner due to shame or a lack of self-confidence. And in this photo, we can see that the father is sheepishly covering his face as his son is relieving himself in the middle of a family portrait. The next word is despair, which is a noun, which means the complete loss or absence of hope. I think a lot of things in this photo show the despair or the lack of hope. The anguish that you can see on the part of his face that's visible, the lowered head, the hand placed on the top of his head through his hair, even the fact that it's done in black and white, it makes it seem very stark to help show the lack of hope that this individual's feeling. So the next word is confines, which is a noun, and it relates to the borders or boundaries of a place, especially with regard to their restricting freedom of movement. In this case, the characters were speaking of a Native American reservation, and often a reservation's remoteness makes many Native Americans feel confined.
So here we have a picture that says one never need leave the confines of New York. And I know New York is not considered a remote location, but the idea that Manhattan is an island and has its own boundaries and may be unique in some way is how this particular person may be interpreting the word confine. The next word is butte, and butte is a noun, and it's a word that is in reference to geography. It has to do with an isolated hill with steep sides and a flat top. And I think perhaps the best way to remember it is to see a picture. So here we have a picture of a butte, and this is one in the American Southwest, where you'll see large stretches of flat land and then something that protrudes like this with steep sides and a flat top. The next group of words come from Two Kinds, a short story by Amy Tan. The first word in this group is prodigy. Prodigy is a noun. It is a person, especially a young one, endowed with exceptional qualities or abilities. And in this short story, the character's mother really hopes that she could be a prodigy. So what I have here is a picture of a musical prodigy. However, there are prodigies in lots of different areas. There are people that are mathematical prodigies. We've also heard stories of young children that are academic prodigies that end up graduating from college at the ages of 10 or 11. So you can be a prodigy in a number of different areas. The next word is a verb. It's perpetuate. Perpetuate means to cause something to continue. I added this footnote to the story because the mother in it uses a description of her daughter's hair in such a way that it perpetuates or continues a stereotype or myths that exist around black hair. And my concern is that I didn't want that stereotype to continue. In this picture, you can see another interpretation of the word perpetuate. The idea of the perpetuation of a species. The fact that this bird will continue and its genetics will continue on because it's laid eggs and is going to have babies soon. The next word is lament, which is a verb. And to lament is to cry out of grief. Perhaps you've heard the noun form of this word, lamentation. So I found this painting for the word lament. It's the lament for Icarus. And Icarus, if you remember, flew too close to the sun with his wax wings. They quickly melted and he fell to the ground and died. So here we see different people lamenting or crying for the fact that he's no longer alive. Reproach is a noun. It's the expression of disapproval or disappointment. And in this particular short story, the mother does offer a number of reproaches about her daughter and her inability to be a prodigy. I felt like this particular painting was a good example of reproach, especially how it's used in the short story. It's entitled The Maternal Reproach, so we can see the mother criticizing the daughter, as happens in Amy Tan's short story. The next word is reverie, and that's a noun. A reverie is an instrumental piece suggesting a dreamy or musing state. This piece of artwork is entitled The Progress of Love, Reverie. And if you look at the young lady sitting under the sculpture of Cupid, you can see that it's almost as if she's lost in her own dreamlike state, like she has some instrumental piece playing in her head as she thinks about the person that she's in love with. So the last words on our list come from Warning Color May Fade by Leah Henderson. first word in this group is gamboge, which is an adjective because it's a description of a color. When you're talking about something that's gamboge, you're talking about something that has a yellow pigment to it. And you can see that this pigment comes from a gum resin of the bark of trees. So in this picture, you can see a number of yellow color swatches. And if you look at the very first column, and the first, second, third, fourth one down, it's entitled gamboge yellow. So that gives you an idea of the color that we're talking about when we're talking about gamboge. The next word is turpentine, which is a noun. And turpentine is a solvent, and it's used to thin oil-based paints. So it's going to come up frequently in this short story because the main character is an artist. So she often discusses using turpentine to either thin or remove her paints. It's a pretty caustic substance, as you'll see from the next photo. So here we have somebody conducting an experiment with an empty or partially empty bottle of turpentine. But you can see from the metal container that it comes in that it's a fairly caustic substance, and similar to oil paints, it has a very distinctive smell. The second to the last word on our list is blatant. Blatant is an adjective, and it means that something is done openly or unashamedly, especially in regards to bad behavior. So in many cases, you know that you're doing something that's inappropriate, but you're choosing to do it in a way, and you have no shame about the fact that you're doing it. So for this photo, I have the picture of two people who have chosen at the beginning of a mask mandate not to wear their masks. And obviously they have no shame about the fact that they're breaking the law because they have signs hoping that people will ask them about why they are choosing to go maskless. They are blatantly disregarding the current statutes in their area. The last word is legacy, and this may be a word that you become more familiar with as you begin to apply to college. Legacy is a noun, and it means somebody who is applying to a particular school who gets preferential treatment because a parent or other relative attended the same institution. So what I have here is a screenshot of the George Washington University website, where their alumni website is advertising the fact that this particular family is what they call a GW legacy family. So in this case, the father and the son have both attended the same university. Probably also means that a son got preferential treatment and had a better chance of getting in during the admissions process. So those are our vocabulary words for the short stories in our study of identity. Good luck studying, and I hope you do well on